I had only just moved from the wooden bed when the motion of the pendulum stopped. I saw it go quickly upwards, pulled by some invisible force, and it disappeared into the ceiling. This was a lesson which I took to heart. They were watching every move I made. Free? How blind I was! I had only escaped death in one form to be subjected to a new and different torture. With that thought, I looked nervously around the walls of my cell. Something had changed. I did not know exactly what it was, but something was different. Desperately, I looked around and above me. Then I saw. The figures on the walls were now clearer, and their colors were more vivid. Demon eyes glared at me from the walls, shining with the red glow of fire. They were so real that I could not force myself to ignore them. The smell, too, was very, very real. It was the smell of heated iron. The red of the figures on the walls became deeper and deeper. I gasped for breath. There was no doubt about my torturer's new objective. Trembling, I shrank from the glowing metal of the walls toward the center of the cell, toward the coolness of the pit. I looked down into the hole, and in the dull light from the roof I saw what was below. For a moment my spirit refused to understand, but the meaning forced its way into my brain, into my soul. And what horror! Now I knew. But the horror, any horror but this! With a shout of despair, I ran from the edge, my face in my hands, crying desperately and bitterly. The heat rapidly increased, and again I looked up. I trembled as though I had a violent fever. There was another change in the cell. The shape had altered again. The walls had moved in toward the center. The square had become a rectangle. I escaped twice, and now my torturers were impatient. The walls moved with a low, rumbling sound. I wanted to hold them to me and find peace. I could take no more horror. Death, I cried. Any death but that of the pit. Fool. I should have known they wanted to force me into the pit. Could I resist the heat of the walls? Could I stop them from pushing me to the edge and down into the hole? The room became narrower and narrower. The walls pressed me toward the center. There was nothing I could do to stop them. Finally, only an inch remained on the floor of the prison. My burning, suffering body writhed against the red-hot walls. I struggled no more, but the agony of my soul escaped in one loud, long, final scream of despair. I felt myself lose balance on the edge of the pit. I closed my eyes. There were voices. There was a loud blast of many trumpets. There was a violent noise like 1,000 thunders. The fiery walls moved back, and an outstretched arm caught my hand as I fell fainting toward the abyss. It was the arm of General LaSalle. The French army had entered Toledo. The Inquisition was in the hands of its enemies.